Hello, everybody. My name is Bradley Collins, and this is my persuasive speech. And I believe that it is time for careless drivers to be held accountable for their actions. Uh, my background is 19 years as a first responder, currently a captain at the fire department. And in that 19 years, I have seen a lot of different wrecks. We cover a large portion of Interstate 26. And have worked wrecks on Interstate 40 as well, and the Blue Ridge Parkway and several other areas. And out of those 19 years of responding to emergencies, I have seen a lot of drunk drivers. I've seen a lot of DWI cases that have come through, and a lot of that is very preventable. Usually the people that suffer in these accidents, from my experience, has actually been innocent bystanders, families driving home from going out to eat or going from a social event. And these drunk drivers, these DWI drivers, they're the ones who really are causing a lot of problems, and most of the time they don't end up as hurt due to their body being limber from the current state that they're in. Behind me is a large fire truck. This is a $850,000 piece of equipment that carries rescue tools, for extrication, for stabilizing vehicles, for cutting glass, and getting people out of trenches and emergency situations. And a majority of the tools on that truck are used for DWI cases. We, as I said, work a lot of wrecks that are DWI cases, and I have worked several on that truck in just a few years that it's been in service. And so my point across in this video is how DWI penalties and restrictions should be increased. And so we'd like to talk just a little bit about facts for DWI drivers. I'd like to talk about the penalties as well as the restrictions. So the facts for DWI cases in North Carolina, this one that I'm referring to specifically is alcohol-related crashes. In the state of North Carolina alone, there was 11,475 car crashes involving a drunk driver. Also, injuries out of that 11,000, there's 7,426 of those crashes were people with injuries. And then fatalities, just in the year of 2020 alone in North Carolina, there was 412 that were resulting from a DWI drunk driver crash. And so looking at these statistics really should mind boggle us. We're living in a day when everybody has access to information. We're living in a day when you can call an Uber, you can hit a button on your phone, you can make all kind of arrangements to get yourself out of a bad situation, yet we still have over 400 deaths in the state of North Carolina every year due to alcohol-related crashes. That's not including drug usage. Those numbers are significantly higher when you get to that part. So for the state of North Carolina, the legal alcohol limit is 0.08. For commercial drivers, it is 0.04. So those who drive large commercial vehicles, theirs is reduced in half. And then if you have a Class A license, which would be your tractor trailers and your heavy equipment, it is 0. You are not allowed to blow anything as a driver of those vehicles. And so there are some restrictions in place, but we see that those really don't work, do they? We're having still, with those things in place, we're still seeing fatalities that are astronomical. And so overall in North Carolina, we've been seeing the increase of this. The average deaths, fatalities from 2015 to 2019 in North Carolina was well under 400. And now we're seeing over 400 fatalities every year. And a lot of factors come into that. There's more cars on the road. There's more people living in the state now. Every year we increase population. But nonetheless, this should be a number that we are concerned about. So kind of moving on and looking ahead, the increasing of the penalties. Our judicial system is backlogged and very well drained of a lot of good resources. But the penalties for DWI cases, in my opinion, and my belief due to the amount of crashes and the amount of injuries and deaths that we are seeing from this, the DWI penalties are not harsh enough. If people realize they can get a slap on the wrist, go pay some fines, get a few points on their insurance, which is the typical case in North Carolina, then they're going to continue to do this. They're going to continue to act upon this. So my belief is that we should increase the penalties and increase the restrictions. 0.08, we have seen where drivers at 0.08 are still not able to drive, and they're still causing accidents. So if you were to decrease that number, maybe to 0.06, 0.04, and then also for commercial drivers, drop all of those numbers down to 0, and more or less do a zero tolerance type policy, to where not only there's bigger restrictions, but if you increase the penalties, if you are caught driving under the influence of a substance, a narcotic, or if you are driving while under the influence of alcohol, that maybe your driver's license should be suspended for 6 months. Maybe these penalties, if we were to be harsher about them, we would see less and less issues on the road. And just because you have a law in place doesn't mean that people have to obey that law, nor does it mean that if they get caught, there's going to be a big penalty. So I do believe in harsher penalties on these situations, the DWI cases. And so kind of in conclusion, to wrap up, as I said, with these big trucks behind me, the fire service, emergency services, we are seeing an astronomical amount of these drivers on the road. We are seeing people who are getting killed every year senselessly because someone else makes a poor decision. And we need to stop that. And I don't really think this is much up for debate. I believe the facts are there. I believe that we need to have tougher restrictions and tougher penalties for people who decide to endanger other people's lives. And so I want to thank you for listening to this video, and I hope it's been very informational as well as persuasive in the accomplishment of trying to increase these penalties and increase the restrictions on DWI cases.